What's going on, everyone, and welcome to my post-2023 season top roller coaster countdown. Since 2017, I have had the opportunity to travel and ride over 400 different roller coasters. In the last few years, I have shared my top 25 roller coasters with you all. Now that I've ridden 400 roller coasters, I feel now is the time to expand my rankings into a top 50 countdown. In this video, I will count down roller coasters 50 through 26, and in the next video, I will count down my top 25 roller coasters. The other reason, though, that I am expanding to a top 50 countdown is not just for the quantity, but also for the quality. 2023 was my biggest year yet, not because of the number of new roller coaster credits I got, but because this was the first year I rode roller coasters outside of the United States. Where all did I travel in 2023? Well, as with every year, these rankings are just my personal opinion. Please feel free to leave any comments if you agree or disagree with my list, or if you have any other opinions you'd like to share, but please respect my choices here, and I promise to respect yours. The coasters in general I tend to rank higher are the ones that are more intense, are dynamic in different forces they produce, and in some cases, just have a flat-out fun experience. With that all in mind, let's begin counting down the coasters. Speaking of fun experiences, a coaster I rode again in 2023 that shot back up my rankings is Copperhead Strike, the mock multi-launch out of Carowinds. This ride has a nice amount of airtime and lateral force, but it really shines with its hang time. At 3 moments during the ride, the starting JoJo roll, the first loop, and the inverted top hat all provide excellent hang time. This isn't the most intense coaster, but the fun factor makes it one of the more enjoyable experiences I've had. Europe's first appearance on my countdown is another fun one in the form of Abyssus, Energylandia's Voma Shockwave. The headliner of the excellent theme park area of Aqualantis, this ride also provides a variety of fun elements. Besides it being incredibly smooth and having maybe the best vest restraints on a coaster, this is a long ride that just keeps on giving. My favorite moment is the airtime hill just before diving under the coaster station leading into the Batwing. Modern Vekoma has a winner with this ride, and it won't be the last one you see in my rankings. A far more intense coaster takes the next spot, and that ride is Legend, Holiday World's lateral force machine. Custom Coasters International, or CCI, were one of the best wooden coaster designers at providing great lateral force. CCI may not have come up with a more forceful Woody than the Legend. Not really known for its airtime, it does have one sharp airtime hill after returning from its trip to the water park. The part of the ride that everyone knows Legend for, though, is the double helix. There's such power in that element, it really can take it out of me at times. This is one of those coasters I continue to grow to appreciate the more I ride it. Carowinds is already making a second appearance in this video. This time it features their awesome Bolliger and Mabiard, or B&M invert, Afterburn. After 4 years, I finally got to re-ride Afterburn once again in 2023, and I had wondered if it was still the best B&M invert I had ridden. The answer to that is yes. This ride takes the intensity from a Batman the Ride clone and adds elite elements to it like the amazing Batwing. The amount of whip on not only that element, but also the other rolls makes this such a thrilling experience every time I ride it. The best CCI I've been on resides down south in the form of Rampage out of Alabama Adventure. Legend may have this ride beat in terms of overall lateral force, but Rampage pretty much does everything else better. Rampage starts off with one of the best first drops on a wooden roller coaster, absolutely yanking you out of your seat if you're in the back. Rampage's overall layout features many airtime moments along with several lateral filled turns and overall great pacing. It's been a few years since I've been down to Alabama to ride this, so I'd be curious to see if I still think as highly of it. One of the most iconic roller coasters in the world is Millennium Force, the original Giga coaster from Cedar Point. The first of many Intamin coasters that will appear on my list may not be the most thrilling today, but this ride was ahead of its time when it debuted in 2000. The sense of speed after going down a 300-foot drop is still one of the coolest sensations on a coaster in my opinion. While this ride doesn't feature many dynamic elements, I do think a couple of airtime moments really pop, and the overbank turns are really enjoyable. Intamin have come a long way since Millennium Force, but even today I still find myself loving this ride. The year 2000 was a big one, as not only did Intamin debut Millennium Force, but they also opened Superman the Ride, Six Flags New England's hypercoaster. This long layout combines a traditional out-and-back style ride and follows it up with a twister section. The airtime going out and coming back are solid moments, and then the twister section really provides nice lateral and positive G-force. I certainly am not in love with the restraint on this ride, but I also didn't really think it hindered the experience as a whole. This is another coaster it's been a few years since I've ridden, so comparing this to Millennium Force now I think would be very interesting. Back now to the laugh out loud coasters, and few have more of that effect than Time Traveler, the world's first mock extreme spinner located at Silver Dollar City. Right from the start, this ride starts with a fantastic 90-degree drop out of the station. The sensation of rotating through different turns and inversions just brings pure enjoyment. Not to mention how comfortable the restraints are on its wonderfully themed trains. My favorite moment on Time Traveler, though, is probably its S-bend, which if taken sideways, delivers a unique negative or positive G-force depending on which direction you're facing. Even after getting on another certain mock extreme spinner this season, riding Time Traveler afterwards reinforced to me how wonderful this ride is. Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC's first appearance on this list, is the Topper Track Goliath, one of Six Flags Great America's many wooden roller coasters. While this ride does have a bit of a shorter layout, the elements it does have are really well executed. The first drop is one of RMC's best that they have done between the airtime during the drop and the positive G-forces at the bottom. There's only one true airtime hill, but it definitely provides ejector airtime. The other moment that really stands out is the 0G stall, which was RMC's first. While RMC and other manufacturers have made several iterations of the 0G stall since Goliath, the original still holds up well. On top of all this, Goliath is a rather smooth wooden roller coaster. This is certainly one of the more underrated RMCs out there. Speaking of underrated RMCs, this next one was the coaster that started it all, New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. The coaster industry was turned on its head in 2011 when Texas Giant had its original track ripped up and replaced with new iBox steel rails, making it a modern thrill machine. Like Goliath, New Texas Giant also has a really good first drop. Unlike Goliath, though, this is a much longer ride but manages to keep up its pacing. New Texas Giant doesn't have any inversions, but it has many airtime hills. I really enjoyed my rides on this back in 2020 and it exceeded my expectations. I do need to get back on this again to see if it still holds up close to some of the newer RMCs. Now it's Great Coasters International, or GCI's turn. The first of their wooden coasters appearing here is Apocalypse out of Six Flags Magic Mountain. Six Flags Headliner Park has some amazing attractions, and one of their better ones is this wooden roller coaster that had some major refurbishment completed in the late 2010s. I never rode Apocalypse before then, so I don't have a comparison, but I love the amount of wooden coaster bite combined with its twister layout. My favorite part might actually be the first drop, which dips down and turns around, building up some speed before plummeting down. I'm still missing a few coaster credits at Magic Mountain, so I definitely need to return for those, but I will not miss getting back on Apocalypse. A different style GCI comes in the next spot, and that is Prowler from Worlds of Fun. Unlike the compact Apocalypse, Prowler has an out-and-back layout where the pacing really shines. Prowler gets compared to a more modern GCI with a similar style, which, spoiler alert, that ride being Mystic Timbers at Kings Island, will not be appearing in these videos. To me, Prowler has more powerful transitions with its turns and airtime than Mystic Timbers. Prowler also has the right amount of wooden coaster roughness associated with it, versus a ride like Mystic Timbers that I frankly find to be too smooth. I haven't been on Prowler since 2020, and this is a ride I can honestly see rising a bit the next time I get around to riding it. Back to RMC, and this is another one that I find to be extremely underrated, and that's Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Why this ride gets so much disrespect I frankly don't understand. The ride length is good, and the pacing is kept up quite well without really any dead spots. The ride starts with a twisted drop frame from the original GCI Roar, which has really nice lateral force. After that, between the inversions, airtime, and bank transitions, this ride has most of what I'm looking for in an RMC, especially being one of the shorter ones. Few coasters have risen higher in my rankings after multiple visits more than Thunderhead at Dollywood has. The retracking Dollywood has done with this ride over the last few years has been phenomenal, and has certainly made the ride smoother. The pacing is some of the best on this Twister GCI, and the airtime hills and turns are pretty forceful. Being within the Smoky Mountains, this ride along with everything at Dollywood have a terrific setting. The more and more I ride Thunderhead, the more it's making a push in my rankings for the best ride at Dollywood. The first coaster from my favorite wooden coaster designer, the Gravity Group, to appear on my list is the Boardwalk Bullet from Kumba Boardwalk. I've said this multiple times previously regarding Boardwalk Bullet, but to fit a wooden coaster of this size and length into such a compact space is really something. Boardwalk Bullet has one of the best opening sequences on a roller coaster, between its turnaround drop and the two rapid turns directly following. The rest of the ride contains decent pacing in general, but has hurt a few times where the ride rises high enough to really slow down. The airtime throughout is solid, but it does lack lateral force after that intense opening. That said, Kumba Boardwalk definitely has a winner that got me down to that part of Texas. One RMC that I find to be just a bit overrated is Twisted Timbers from King's Dominion. There's no question this is a really good ride as a whole. The 3 consecutive camelback hills are the highlight, along with the barrel roll first drop and the cutback inversion, which are also really good. Outside of those points, the ride doesn't feel extremely dynamic in mixing forces besides airtime. The pacing I do think is a little inconsistent, where it starts and ends well, but kind of meanders in the middle. I do think this ride is more for those who prioritize airtime above anything else. Twisted Timbers is a really good converted roller coaster, but there are several more rides from Armsea that do more that place higher on this list. Heading back outside the country, the tallest non-US coaster I've now ridden is Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. I'm going to say it right now, this coaster is not only better than Orion at Kings Island, it's substantially better. Where Orion fails to me are the number of elements that are taken so high off the ground, it loses its sense of speed. Leviathan manages to keep its high speed the entire ride duration, which in turn provides far more intense elements. The speed hill on Leviathan is significantly better than Orion's. The turns on Leviathan feel tighter, providing more positive G-forces. In addition, while Orion has good dispatch times, Leviathan may have had the best I have seen at any Cedar Fair park. Leviathan may be a little short in length, but the original B&M Giga coaster certainly exceeded my expectations. The next coaster here I truly have a soft spot for, and that's the intense B&M Looper Kumba at Busch Gardens, Tampa. On paper, this older B&M looks fairly conventional in its layout, not having any elements that seem too out of the ordinary. What I think makes Kumba is how fast-paced this ride is and how aggressively it navigates each element. Besides the consistent bombardment of positive G-forces, the ride's signature element is a zero-G roll that really shoots you from your seat. This ride is maybe not the smoothest, but if a ride is overall intense in nature, and providing positive G-force like Kumba is, I certainly overlook most of the roughness. I really hope Busch Gardens Tampa continue to take care of this absolute beast of a coaster. My first major coaster milestone came all the way back in 2018 with Renegade, Valleyfair's awesome GCI Woody. This was the first GCI that I rode that seemed to provide significant moments of airtime. The opening sequence starts with a unique S-curve drop, followed by a sustained floater-filled airtime hill. The best moment of the ride occurs at the end of the following turnaround, where the end of it culminates with an unsuspecting sudden drop-off that is the sharpest airtime moment of the ride. The rest of the ride is highlighted by a couple of additional sustained floater hills, assisted by the great pacing this ride has. I know it's well out of the way for most, but Valleyfair is such a charming park, and having Renegade makes it worth taking a trip up there. Boy, how the mighty have fallen with this next one, and Lightning Rod from Dollywood might sink a lot further down when the lift hill changes are made to the ride for the 2024 season. My last visit to Dollywood was early 2022, and I was only able to get one ride on L-Rod, and had I gotten more, I may have pushed Thunderhead ahead of it for best ride in the park. After a fun launch to start, I feel there's a lack of strong elements and forces until the finale. The twist and shout element is the one spot that is executed well. The quad down finale is one of the more overrated elements on a coaster out there in my opinion. It's a really good, but not elite sequence of airtime hills. I understand it's for reliability purposes, but I fear replacing the launch with a chain lift is really going to hinder what was once an elite ride. The other milestone coaster credit making my list is Ravine Flyer 2 out of Waldameer. Similar to Boardwalk Bullet, Ravine Flyer 2 is another Gravity Group Woody that headlines a smaller park. However, while Boardwalk Bullet is more compact, Ravine Flyer 2 dives down a taller drop and shoots across a roadway via an airtime-filled bridge. The ride turns around and repeats the airtime hill, and from there, the pacing keeps up pretty well for the rest of the layout. Between the airtime hills and lateral forces from the bank turns, Ravine Flyer 2 is pretty dynamic. Not to mention the setting at the top of the lift hill overlooking Lake Erie is outstanding. This is one of those rides I will go out of the way to ride if I'm passing near the area. The only defunct coaster to make my top 50 is Top Thrill Dragster, the original Stratocoaster from Cedar Point. Few moments built up more anticipation than the hydraulic launch of Dragster, shooting you up to 120 miles per hour in about 4 seconds. Before becoming a full-fledged enthusiast, this was the one coaster that really had me nervous to ride for the first time. The adrenaline rush of waiting on the track before, during, and after the launch made for an unforgettable experience. If you were lucky enough to get a front row ride, this became that much better with nothing in front of you going 120 miles an hour. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really skeptical for the new Top Thrill 2 as the launches will be nowhere near as powerful as the predecessor. I'm frankly a little disappointed Cedar Point didn't do more to make the new iteration feel like a true upgrade from the awesome Top Thrill Dragster. Another ride that has a powerful launch that I'd probably rank ahead of most is Max Force out of Six Flags Great America. Max Force by S&S features an air compressed launch that has the fastest acceleration of any coaster in the country, going from 0 to 78 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. The punch from that launch combined with the comfortable lap bars makes you feel so exposed flying down the track. Max Force is more than just the launch though. The launch shoots you into the dog tongue, which has a nice hang time moment at the top. This ride then goes through one of the fastest inversions on a roller coaster in the world. This ride finishes off with a double inversion right into the brakes. This may be a short ride, but I feel like not one moment of this coaster is wasted. The biggest disappointment from my Europe trip, sadly, was the new for 2023 Intamin Blitz style coaster Toutatis at Parc Streaks. First off, the ride looks beautiful and the station, train, and areas surrounding the ride are wonderfully themed. In terms of the ride experience, this ride does have a major flaw in my opinion. After the fun swing launch sequence, what really hurts this ride for me are the trims placed on the top hat. The trims hit so hard that if you sit towards the front of the train, it feels like you are being guided down almost the entirety of the drop. The falling 0G stall is also taken slower than most, resulting in more hang time rather than the floater sensation most other stalls provide. The pacing does pick up after though, with a couple of strong airtime moments and a fantastic 0G roll towards the finale. Intamin is the best designer in the business in my opinion, and there are many of their rides that will appear in my top 25. The fact that a ride of this caliber is outside my top 25 truly shows how good their rides are. The first ride outside of my top 25 is one that I think I've finally gotten my bearings on after my third visit in 2023. That is Fury 325 from Carowinds. For the second time in 3 visits to Carowinds, I visited another park the day prior and rode a coaster that I thought was not only stronger than Fury, but significantly stronger. Fury is an enjoyable coaster and it does have a great sense of speed and decent forces in the first half of the ride. The best moment is the treble clef dive under the entry bridge. After that moment, the ride really gets significantly tamer and really lets up its pacing. The long drawn-out helix really kills the ride's energy leading into the final 2 airtime hills. No doubt Fury is loved by many, but I think its time being a top 25 coaster for me has passed. And that concludes part 1 of my top 50 roller coaster countdown. Stay tuned as next week I will release part 2, which will count down my top 25. Feel free to leave any comments regarding my rankings or thoughts on any of the coasters I discussed in this video. With that, until next time, have a great day and take it easy.